In my last video, I spoke about collecting Imperial Guard Cadians and how to get the most for your money out of the Games Workshop sets. And in this video, I'm going to be speaking about how to give your Guard army a bit of a different look to Cadians, and I'm going to be going a lot further than just different colour schemes, like you see on this little selection of figures here. I am going to be talking about what other alternatives are currently available from Games Workshop. The simplest approach to creating an Imperial Guard army that isn't just basic Cadians is to look at the other regiments that are still available from Games Workshop, and amongst these the most obvious are the Katachan jungle fighters. Games Workshop still produce a full range of Katachan infantry. There is a 10-man rifle squad, which interestingly is slightly cheaper than the Cadian equivalent. The difference is that it's got not quite as many options in it. There is no grenade launcher, there's only a flamer option for special weapon, but other than that it's pretty much the same. There is a command squad, which really gives you exactly the same options as you get in the Cadian version, but again it's slightly cheaper. Both of those sets cost £20 instead of £22.50 at the moment. Whether that Games Workshop will change that is anyone's guess. And there is also a heavy weapons squad, which costs the same as the Cadian equivalent. Now, the plastic parts from each of these sets are almost fully compatible, but there are a few exceptions. The command and heavy weapons squads were released significantly later than the regular rifle squad, and their figures are based actually more on the Cadians than the Katachans, and it means that the torsos and legs can't be freely interchanged. There may be other issues that I haven't found yet, but apart from that, I think equipment and weaponry is fully interchangeable between the older and newer sets. As an additional option, Katachans were available in metal before plastic, and you can still pick up a number of the Katachan figures on eBay, so you could supplement your army using those if you wanted. The other option for figures still produced by Games Workshop are the Armageddon Steel Legion, and you can still buy through mail order this 10-man infantry squad with a grenade launcher and a missile launcher. Strangely, for metal figures, these are actually slightly cheaper than the multi-part plastic Cadians, although of course there are the limitations of metal in that the poses are all fixed and there aren't any options. You have to have the grenade launcher and you have to have the missile launcher in each squad. You could of course supplement these with figures bought from eBay. The range used to be wider than it is now. Of course, those figures will be at a premium. And one other thing to watch out for is that there are a number of sellers on eBay who offer this squad and say that it is out of production, and they'll charge you about £45 for it, which is more than double what you will pay from Games Workshop for the same thing. So always be sure to check that figures you're buying off eBay aren't still available. Necromunda models, like the ones you see here, can also work well as Imperial Guard, and there are two ways of using these. You can just put a few members into different squads to make them look a bit different. Which gang you pick will determine whether they look better with Cadians or Katachans, of course, or you can just make an entire army out of the Necromunda figures. And if you're going to do that, then the Escher figures work best, as seen here, because you get the right sorts of weapons in the standard 10 model set to make an entire infantry squad. Now this particular lot I have customized with a missile launcher and a grenade launcher, but if you just use the parts from the House Escher gang set, then you can make a sergeant with a las pistol and a close combat weapon. There are then 6 las guns and 2 auto guns available in the set to bulk out your regular riflemen, and then there is a weapon which I believe in Necromunda is called a chem thrower, which can be a flamer to provide you with a special weapon. Now, unfortunately, as far as I can tell, the Escher gang is the only one where you can do this. All of the other current gang sets, the weapon options do not provide you with enough for the full squad in a single box. So you would be reduced to buying individual figures off eBay to get the right mix. And that, of course, is going to put the price up. A standard gang set, for example, these Eschers, doesn't actually cost much more than a regular Cadian set. I think it's about £26 instead of £22.50. So that's not much of an increase for a different look. But if you're buying individual parts, then obviously that price can easily double. The human troops from the Age of Sigmar range offer an easy way of creating a very colourful regiment of Imperial Guard. And what I've done here is I have taken a set of 3 guild handgunners and I have modified their weapons to turn them into Imperial Guardsmen. For the basic handgunner, I have replaced the handgun muzzle with one taken from a lasgun, and I've also added a lasgun power pack to the weapon about halfway long to turn it from a primitive muzzle loading weapon into a variation of the Imperial Guard lasgun. Then I have a sergeant. Again, I've just swapped the muzzle on the pistol to create his las pistol, and the chainsword is just a chainsword taken from an Imperial Guard sergeant and not altered in any other way. For support, the squad has a grenade launcher, and that just takes the forward section of a grenade launcher, including its magazine, and I've cut off the barrels from one of the multi-barreled weapons in the handgunner set. Then there is a heavy bolter. Now, obviously, with these figures all standing up, I needed a taller mounting for the heavy bolter. So this is actually mounted on the stand from a mortar, which then takes a leg from another mortar stand and adds that on at the back to turn it into a tripod. Then obviously, to finish off, there's a little monkey thing. Now, obviously, you would have to buy all the parts for these weapons separately, which would add cost, but the cost of the set of riflemen itself is actually quite a bit cheaper at the moment than a set of Cadian Imperial Guardsmen. So in fact, that really makes up for the fact you're having to spend extra on these weapon parts. It's not just the human troops in the Age of Sigmar range that you can use either. Here I've taken an Ogre man-eater and I have given it a simple weapon swap using a ripper gun taken from a plastic Ogrin, and I now have a female Ogrin. Obviously you could also do this with any of the male Ogre figures that you can make fit, and since they come in plastic form, they're probably easier to convert than this was. Sadly, not every range produced by Games Workshop can be used to create Imperial Guard. Blood Bowl doesn't work. You can see here where I attempted to convert a couple of human Blood Bowl players into Imperial Guardsmen, and the scale is just wrong. Unless Games Workshop decides it's going to try and foist Primaris Imperial Guard on us, these figures are just too tall and they don't look right even when you've swapped weapons over, which is a pity really, because the design of the figures I think looked very good, which is why I attempted this conversion, but after I did these two I gave up on the idea, and I don't advise you try it either. Your final choice for figures from Games Workshop for an Imperial Guard army is to go to Forge World. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the Forge World figures available to show you, but I can give you an explanation of what your choices are. The most obvious choice is to use the Death Corps of Krieg. A full range of these figures is still produced by Forge World, and you can pick them up for, I think it's about the equivalent of £40 a squad. So they're roughly twice the cost of the Cadian plastics, but that price isn't actually too outrageous when you compare it with some of the other alternatives from eBay. And there is also the Solar Auxilia for the Horus Heresy era. Now, their organisation is different, so to get the right sort of figures could be more complicated. It will cost you more because you'll have to buy different sets to make up the squads, and the range isn't designed specifically for Imperial Guard. I'm not certain exactly how much variation you will be able to get. Now, that covers what's available from Games Workshop at the moment, and in the third part of this guide to collecting Imperial Guard, I will instead look at figures no longer produced by Games Workshop and using parts that aren't produced by Games Workshop at all.